thank you all for giving me this opportunity. One thing I realized in life is that everything is hypnosis. It's not that we learn technique, we just become aware of it. Whatever we have done in this world through our life's experience has been through a transcendental process. I tell that to my clients and they just don't understand. Oh really, I did that? And I always quote Milton Erickson. You probably will hear about him. Milton Erickson used to tell his clients, he would say, you have hypnotized yourself to be where you are. The problems that you're calling as a problem is because you have hypnotized yourself. I'm going to help you de-hypnotize. That was his statement. Because we grow up in a system, in a society, we become become a belief system within ourselves. Each one of us is a philosopher. Each one of us is a walking religion. If you look at it, every individual is by himself or herself a system. And that various values come into play and we begin to develop a perspective. We call them as filters. So when we see something, we are not just seeing with our eyes. We are seeing it through this sunglasses of filter that we put on, which we accumulate over our lifetime. And no two people look at the same thing the same way. And as a result, what we receive from outside is filtered by our belief system. And we take everything based on what our value system is. And sometimes they look ridiculous to us. A God like this looks really ridiculous to a lot of people, right? There are people seriously worshipping this. If you go there, millions of people. How many of you been to India? That's good. I can talk about it. That's it. I mean, you've seen a lot of it on television and heard about it. India is a land of tigers, gods, goddesses, and snakes, and a lot of poverty and high-tech software engineers. That's the thing you hear about in India. But it's a very exotic place, even to a person who has grown up there. There is so much that I don't know yet, and I'm still trying to learn. And so that's what makes it very interesting. If you take a train journey in India, I used to love train journeys in India because it takes, the train goes at 40 miles per hour. It makes a sound as if it's going at 3,000 miles per hour. But you're sitting in there looking outside, and the variety is just beautiful. You're just looking outside. You never get bored. Because as the train is moving, you come across various cultures, various, dress codes, traditions, everything will change. And yet you can see there's some kind of a commonality. A lot of people sleep off. I never used to sleep during train rides. I'll sit and watch outside. Because everything is an education in your life. And it starts building your own belief system. So I built my own system. And the real India is in the hinterlands. A lot of people go to the metros and they see the India and then they come back. Because that's all you can do. You go to the United States as a visitor, you go to New York City, that's your symbol of the United States. And I brought some relatives here to Portland and they said, this is United States? Because they thought it was all like skyscrapers, that's what they associated with. And I was showing them all the Columbia guards and most of them slept through because they just didn't associate it. Likewise, India is associated with the metros or some really filthy river that's going through. It's never associated with the hinterland. That's where the real India is. And I was fortunate to have grown up in the hinterlands. I'm not a metro guy. I moved to metros, but I grew up mostly on the countryside. And I moved from place to place. My dad worked in the government, and they followed the British system because India was a colony of the British. They never wanted to keep anybody, living for a long time in any place because they thought these guys would build an empire. And so they kept on moving people around. And for me, it was a great thing because as a child, I'll go from town to town, meet various kinds of people, different languages. And so I started looking forward to changes, started looking forward to new things, and it was an education by itself. And all education happens subliminally. Whatever you're absorbing, you may think that you may be rejecting things, you may be not accepting things, but you are absorbing things inside. And they're all accumulating inside of you. And you have to look back in life. Always, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people go through life and they never look back because life is so fast-paced. There's no time to sit and look back. So people are just going through and then they get stressed out. I get a lot of clients who talk about this. I tell them to look back in life. What was the occasion that started all this? Once you start looking back in life, you realize there's a learning in it. You have accumulated all this learning and everything is a learning. You never call something as a struggle. A struggle is just your attempt to come out of something, and in that process you are learning. If you don't struggle, you give up. And you don't want to do that. So you want to struggle and struggle and struggle. That makes life very challenging. And so I tell my clients that. Never say I'm struggling. Never say I'm suffering. Because without that, you will never know what you have. Right? So this has been an ongoing education in life, and there's no dearth of learning in life. I've always enjoyed it. And I ended up in the engineering field. I spent almost half my life after college as an engineer. And it is a very interesting field in the sense where they take you away from all this mind-related things. Engineers want tangible things, an equation to describe anything, and you can approximate anything. Infinity can be approximated, nothing beyond that. You need a model, and everything is real, everything is practical, and that's it. So you grow up in that field, and you begin to think like that. Because what happens is you are in it day in and day out. And so something like hypnotherapy, mind and everything is kind of hokey stuff. So they always would avoid. And people are always afraid of hypnotherapists as a result because you can control them. And no engineer likes to be controlled. And so for me, life has been a curious thing. Always, I was dabbling with many things. And so I dabbled with meditation for some time. And I loved meditation. And when I was growing up in India, people would talk about this meditation and everything. But when I asked them probing questions, they didn't know. And usually you get shouted down because you cannot ask elders any questions. The tradition is to just submit and take what is there. Don't ask questions. You will know on your own. And I realized that a lot of people really didn't know. They were just diluting the system from generation to generation. As a result, they had no idea what the scriptures were saying. So I kind of, while becoming an engineer, I kind of began to withdraw myself from all this. So in a place like India, so traditional, so deeply ingrained with religion, I became an atheist. And until I came here, I just didn't believe in any of this. To me, it was a beautiful sculpture. That was it. So I go take pictures of all this. So that's beautiful culture. Human beings, like engineers have done a lot of creative stuff. That's how I went. So when I came to the United States, it's interesting. Life puts you in the other side of the world, where you expect everything to be much more materialistic, much more practical, because the West achieved all the science accomplishments. Every technology you can think of in this world was accomplished in the West. Name anything the world takes for granted, electricity, cell phones, to anything, it came from here. So this is what people think practical. They don't get into any hocus pocus. So that's the image I had when I came. And interestingly, I encountered spiritual people here more than over there. I don't know why. And I started coming across people who were spiritually inclined. They would ask me about India. And it was embarrassing because I knew a lot, but I couldn't share that with them because I didn't believe in any of them. So how could I tell them? So people, I would say, just go to India, meet somebody, I cannot tell you anything. So I just went on and on like that. At some point, as you age with time, I had a habit of looking back in life. I would write diaries, I would look back in life. And I started putting together many of my experiences. What happens is you begin to learn only when you are ready. That's the realization. We go to school, we learn many things. You really don't learn anything. You are absorbing things. The real learning happens only when you are ready. As a baby, you didn't walk right away. You walked only when you were ready. You talked only when you were ready. Until then, you were a baby, right? Everybody has done that. So as you mature through preschool and elementary school and everything, you learn what is appropriate for it. You don't learn nuclear physics in 3rd grade because you are not ready for it. You have to put the fundamentals. So I realized my life has been putting the fundamentals slowly one by one, and I had to realize it all at the right time. So life brought me to it, and I began to understand many things that I ignored. So then hypnosis was one field I was interested in. Thanks to technology, I started seeing it in YouTube. I would watch, a guy coming in, turning the entire stage. They all fall asleep. So I used to be intrigued by that. How does he do all this? And as an engineer, that used to frighten me because how can somebody be controlling me, right? I didn't want to be on the stage with those guys. So that's how the whole thing started. And everything happens for a reason in life. You don't know why you come across certain things, and you have to look back to see why the connection happens, right? And I compare the human mind to a tree. As you walk on the street, you see various kinds of trees, at least in this latitude, spruce, cider, cedar, maple, various types of trees, and you categorize each one of them by the leaves, by the bark, by the trunk and the size and everything. And if you look at a catalog of trees, that's what you see, how they appear outside. But the real tree, if you ask me, is not what is outside. The real tree is hidden. It is completely underground. And it is because of that the whole tree is surviving. And it stores all the energy that is brought in and stays completely unbeknown to you. And you don't categorize trees by their roots. The roots are subterranean. You do not know how deep they go, how wide they go. All you can tell is how tall a tree can grow, how wide it can grow. But what is underneath is the root. The leaves can fall during a season and the tree will survive. You can chop off the branches, you can chop off the stem. Until you remove the roots, the tree still stays. Another stem will grow out of it. And the root is very powerful. It doesn't have our senses, right? It cannot think, it cannot smell, it cannot taste, it cannot do anything. But every root knows where the source of water is, where the nutrients are. And it is so strong it can break through concrete. It can destabilize foundations. It's that powerful. And we always associate trees as stationary objects. Once you plant a tree, it stays there. But the tree has a moving part. The root is continuously moving in all directions. The human mind is very similar to that. What we associate as personalities outside are like the bark and the leaves and the branches. What is hidden inside is the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind, like the root, goes in various directions. Depending upon where the wind is blowing, depending upon what your environment is, the root grows accordingly. And it's interesting. What my realization is that through the experience of hypnosis is that this root is not just confined to you. That's my realization. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist in the last century, called it collective unconscious. The subconscious mind is a very interesting entity. It spreads in all directions. It connects you with others. You might have seen trees where the roots go and then at a distance another stem comes out of it and it looks like a separate tree by itself. Aspen trees and certain other trees do that. If you chop off one trunk, there's another one growing. So like that, we are all individuals, somehow we get connected. And the connection happens based on your inclination and your maturity level. Whatever you believe, whatever you think of, it associates you with those kind of people. So if you have a curiosity or inclination to go in a certain direction, it takes you in that direction. And it breaks through all the barriers and at some point leads you to the thing that you're desiring. And one day the roots in my subconscious brought me to Bruce. That's why I encountered him. And ever since, life has changed. It's been a year and a half. I've been in this town for 27 years. Never got to see him. Things happen at the right time, right? When you are ready. When you are ready to receive, things will happen. That's my realization. And I encountered Bruce and I took the hypnotherapy, hypnosis, etc. Life completely changed. And I'm offering, hypnotherapy to clients, and it's a totally different experience. It helps me look back in life completely and realize what all I could have done differently. This is an opportunity you never get because you are helping others look back at their lives and see how they can change it. They could have changed their lives. It's never too late, right? So I get the same thing. So it's an immense happiness when I go home every time. And I realized as an engineer working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, I was looking forward to that. Going home happy. That's all we all look for. And it began to happen. So life brings you to that. Not only that, it begins to open up other possibilities. You have all these experiences, you have accumulated all these things inside. Someday it has to come out. And it comes out at the appropriate time again. Something inside me said, let's write it all down. And so I didn't sweat about it. It has been an enjoyable process. Let it happen on its own. And it happened. And it took the form of this book called The Universe Within. And there is a subtitle here, it's Essence of Hinduism. It's very interesting. I used the hypnotic process to write this book. I wouldn't say I used it, I just let it do it. And all you have to do is go into a trance. We are always in a trance, we are always dreaming, we are always imagining. Whenever we do that, we are in a trance. I would imagine about many things in the system that I grew up. And the subconscious mind will do the writing part of it. It will write in a very unique way. It will suddenly give me some spot of thoughts and I have to write it down right away. If I didn't do it, it's wrong. So I would go write it down. It will come to 5-6 pages at a time. I kept on collecting it. And one fine day it dawned on me that I could knit it together into a book, and then it gave chapter titles. And it will come in your dream or somewhere, I said, this chapter title looks very unique. If you look at my book, The titles start with animal names. Starts with a lion, an elephant, a cow, and you will understand why. Because animals are important in our lives. We share this planet with them. They have something to teach us. The river, the mountain, the clouds, everything is teaching us something. And we are just walking through them because we are in a fast-paced life. We are subliminally absorbing all that, but we are not making use of it. We are not putting it together. The same thing I realized I was doing in India. I had ignored everything that was around me. And at some point, I began to realize everything around me was teaching me something, and I never put it together. So when I wrote this book, it was an interesting experience. I was able to look at it all. Everything I had seen, the streets, the animals, the temples, the homes, the traditions, one by one. And they all began to lead me to an essence. It was very interesting. Because if you look at a religion is like a road and it signals on the road, right? There are signals, traffic, you know your destination, you're going by roads. That's what a religion is. They direct you in your path to your destination. And you can choose your destination, you can choose your path, right? But what happens is if you get stuck on the road and think that is what your life is, you are remaining on the road. You need to reach your destination. A lot of people get lost on the road. They never reach their destination. We are all like rivers. We start, we reach our destination. We don't need a map. A river never asks for a GPS. It just flows and reaches the destination, right? The river never sweats about it. You can put dams around it, it will find a way. It always flows. We are all like that. We don't know what our destination is, but we are just flowing all the time. And along the path, we accumulate everything and create a delta for ourselves at the very end. And so that has been the life experience, and I started putting it together in this book. And it was a learning experience for me, writing the whole thing. And everything happened from within, and the essence was very visible. And what is the essence? Essence is very simple. The essence is that we all may look like islands. You know, Charles Darwin wrote this famous book on the evolution of the origin of species, as he called it. And he discovered that when he went to the Galapagos Islands. Each island was separate, and the environment in each island was so unique that the same species began to diverge and adapt according to the environment there, and they looked distinctly different. So from there he realized that he could write this major theory which was accepted worldwide. Think of it, each one of us is like an island, separated by this body of water. Each one of us is unique. We have our own internal environments, and our evolution inside is totally different from each other. We may belong to the same culture, same nation, same everything, but each one is an island. And these islands seem apart, but if you take the water away, they are all connected underneath by the same surface. We all belong to the same surface, and what seems apart is only temporary. That's the realization. So that is the essence. The same thing with the universe. We are a part of the universe. We are not separate from it. We are like a droplet that comes out of the ocean, temporarily. You don't have to drink the whole ocean to know how it feels. You can take a droplet and taste it. It's got the same salinity, same chemistry, same density, same refractive index, all the qualities of the ocean, excepting for the size of it. So you just need to sample that droplet, and when you do that, you realize the ocean. You realize the entire universe within. That's how the title came. But every one of us is a representation of what we are inside. We are the cover to our own books. Right? Likewise, every book that you see, the title, the subtitle, everything has to convey what is in the book in one shot. So here is the universe. When you realize the universe within, you become that. When you become that, full of inner balance, you don't have to go to a temple or a church or anything. You become that temple. Your whole being becomes a temple. And when you do that, you realize the whole universe within. And here is a reflection of the whole thing, full of ripples. That's how we are. And when you realize the whole thing, those ripples disappear. And you reflect the whole universe inside of you. So that meaning came, and that's why I put it together. And it happened at the right time. You know, it's amazing how the subconscious does everything for you. And I'm beginning to really appreciate it more and more. I didn't realize this. And so I tell everybody, subconscious mind is everything. You need to start linking with her. I call her her because she's Mother Earth, part of Mother Earth. And she does amazing things for you. And what is in the book is basically a description of all this. If you look at religions, if you look at mythology, if you look at everything, they're all hypnotic in nature. They're all metaphorical. They tell a story. a story in which a hero goes to conquer something. And on his way, he encounters obstacles. He encounters strange beings who help him. And the villain is always formidable. The villain comes and takes everything, destroys everything, like a Lion King movie, right? The villain takes everything. And he is in power, and the hero has nothing, and he's a simpleton. He's got a few towns working with him, and using that, he confronts this villain. And then he wins at the end. Not because he has a superior weapon or something, just by confronting that thing, he's able to conquer that. If you look at the story of David and Goliath, same thing. Goliath had all the mighty armor and everything. You could not even go near him. He will smash you. And this little boy had a slingshot, and he never thought of a slingshot being a weapon. And one hit, and he knocked him down, right? That's what happens in every story. This Joseph Campbell, the famous mythologist, saw the commonality. There's a quest in everyone. And if you look at India, the same thing. There are epics there, famous epics in which a hero goes on a journey and conquers a 10-headed demon, or they fight a war with each other, they do all that. They are very entertaining. When you see that, there are so many, you may wonder who wrote this. Typically, you cannot tell who wrote this. There are so many branch stories, each one telling you a moral. You don't need television or anything. When we grew up, we used to listen to all these stories, being told by, elders. They were very entertaining. And you could just unleash your imagination thinking of all this. And this runs as a bloodstream in India. No matter where you go in India, people know about these epics. And again, as a hero going there, and I didn't realize the inner meaning of that. There is a hero in all of us. We don't realize that. And that hero wants to know what is the meaning of life. And most of us are living on the street level. We just go to work, go home, and pay our bills. We are living in that. The moment you realize there is a meaning to life, and I need to find that meaning, the hero starts emerging. As soon as the hero starts emerging, the villain takes over. The villain is inside of you. It's mighty strong. All your temptations, all your belief systems, all your weaknesses come with full force. And they defeat you again and again, and you fall. So now it takes perseverance and toughness and discipline, and you cross that barrier. That's when you need a guidance. You need somebody to encourage you and say, you can do it, come on, I'll help you. And then the guide takes you through, and you slowly begin to realize, and you can conquer this demon who disappears. And you look at various scriptures across the world, that's what they are saying. Slaves are led to their promised land by Moses. In Islam, they call this guy the unbeliever. There's an unbeliever in you, and it says that unbeliever dies. All doubt gets removed. The doubting Thomas completely disappears. In Islam, they call him the kafir, the infidel, the unbeliever. So they say that unbeliever gets killed in the process because you conquer. Then you enter paradise, it's called. So you go into paradise. Paradise is something you experience within. Of course, the meaning has been taken differently. The struggle that you fight against your own weakness is called jihad in Islam. You fight internally against all that. Of course, they are fighting jihad for a different reason, right? So human beings misinterpret everything, and they do funny things. Christmas, if you look at that, it's all commercialized right now. Santa Claus is the main hero of Christmas, not Christ anymore. So like that, every country you go there, you will find statues of this God being taken on huge, massive statues. They make them, throw them and dump them into water. People are having fun with that. And you look at all that and you get put off by that. You become intellectual. This is not how it should be, right? You start distancing yourself from all that without realizing that all learning is subliminal. Everyone is learning something unbeknown to themselves. And that's something I didn't know until the time came. Because spiritually, we are all children. We never left our preschool. We still fight each other because we think our daddy is mightier than somebody else's daddy, right? We always do that. So the seers and the sages of India, they keep coming again and again, and they realize that the only way to teach children anything is to speak in their language. The only language they speak is being playful. A child wants to play. You have to feed the child playing with it. You have to read a book or play with it before it goes to sleep. Everything is a game. You go to preschool classes, it looks really funny to us now, but we went through that stage, right? That's how human beings are. We want festivals, we want all these kinds of entertainment going on, so that we are learning subliminally. Every child is learning. All the morals, all the values, all the beliefs are being subliminally given. So when they become adults, they become a shape of that completely. That's what's happening. So in India is no exception. When you go there, you've got thousands of gods, thousands of goddesses, thousands of scriptures, thousands of traditions, and it's mind-boggling. Which one should you take? Some Americans ask me, when I go to India, what should I do? I said, just visit and come back, because you don't need to do anything there. Because I myself haven't visited most of India. It's so diverse, you don't know where to start and you don't know where to go, right? So the easiest thing would be to go after the essence of it. And so the book talks about the essence. And the essence is pretty simple. We live in a dualistic world. We know the extremes all the time. We know good, we have evil. Our life is simple. We are children, so for us everything is simplified. We see good, we see bad, we see day, we see night, and we operate within that. You take away one of them, you will realize you'll be totally in a disarray. You cannot see light without darkness. You cannot know what darkness is without light. You need both of them. Each one is providing a contrast for the other, because we need a reference frame. Without a reference frame, we cannot function. We need a Cartesian coordinate system. We need a point of origin. With respect to that, we can function. The age of the whole universe is calculated in Earth years. 13.6 billion Earth years. Earth didn't even exist when the universe came. But that's the only way we can understand it. The speed of an object going, the speed of light, is related to the Earth. 186,000 miles in a second. The second is again based on the Earth. We understand everything from our reference point. You take the reference point away, we go insane, right? But what they are realizing is that if you start advancing spiritually, you will start withdrawing yourself from this reference frame. It is scary to us. But once you start withdrawing yourself from the reference frame, you enter another realm, which is free of all references, free of all comparison. And people call it by various names. They call it nothing, they call it nirvana, they call it whatever. Satori in Japanese, they call it by various names. And it scares a lot of people, because we are so much used to logic, rationality, and using our senses. Going the other way is kind of really hard for us. And so it is not easy for the spiritual children to comprehend that. So they said, all over the world, not only in India, if you look at the ancient religions, they said, let people choose what they want. So there are so many different gods, mainly because everybody's inclination is different. No two people are the same, right? That's why religions begin to divide. You have so many factions in every religion. The founder founded one religion. A few centuries later, there are 4 or 5 factions. Buddhism started as one. People asked Buddha, what is God? And he just maintained silence. He didn't answer anybody. Now there are 4 schools of thought in Buddhism. They even have a thing called Tantric Buddhism. So there are various types of Buddhism that have come because human beings are like that. They just keep on dividing because each one thinks he knows better than the other. My interpretation is better than yours. As a result, I'm going to follow this. Why? It's nothing better or worse. It's just that everybody has their inclination. There is an intellectual in some people. There is a simpleton in some other people. Some people like to work with their hands and feel everything. And they don't need to think about anything. There are people who like to hear and be in music and dancing and singing. They relate to the world in a different way. There are people who are rational. They want logic, proof, and everything. And they look at the world in a different way. So what happens is when you put them together, you cannot have a single system for everyone. It's like watching television, right? Some people want to watch ESPN, some people want to watch QVC, some people want to watch a different channel, or some people want Fox Network. It all depends upon your inclination. And so the freedom is given. Everybody's watching all these channels. And the only thing they are looking for is entertainment. What is common is entertainment, the experience of entertainment, but what is different is the way they get that entertainment. Same thing happens in your spiritual practice. Follow what you like. And you will reach a stage where all the paths, at the base of the mountain, you have many paths. There are many hiking trails. As you start climbing higher and higher, paths have to merge. There's no other way. There's only one summit at the very end. From where you can see the whole thing. That's the beauty of it, right? So we are still at the base of the mountain. And so the larger the mountain, the more the pathways are. And that's how the whole system is. It's natural. That's the important thing. It has to be based on nature. Because human beings are natural entities. You cannot become artificial. Nature will find a way, no matter what you do. You can put a rigid system. They tried that in the USSR. They brought in communism. and they said there's no God, there's nothing, this is how the world is, and they tried to clamp it on the people. For 70 years, the people in the system suffered, and the USSR are gone. But now, Russia boasts a lot more churches than before. People have just gone back to it because there is a root. We all yearn for the root. We cannot be separated from our roots. And the roots are always in the ground. And we are always connected to it, and the ground is called spirituality. So that is the essence of not only Hinduism, but of all religions in the world. They are all there to guide us through to a higher level. We just have to go through it. But as we grow, we will understand in our own unique ways, and each one of us will become spiritual in the process. So that is the essence of this book. There is the message in it. It may help you enhance yourself, in the sense, you have your own system. By reading it, you may come across something in it which you can relate to and build your own, foundations on it. So I thank you for the time here, and I really appreciate listening to me. And I can go on and on this.